Hi, everyone. I'm Sam Wilson Jr., and this is the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast, the music podcast on where I interview singers and musicians from genres of black music: gospel, jazz, blues, old school classic soul, old school hip hop, today's hip hop and R&B, Caribbean, Latin, Afrobeat, Afro-Latina, blue-eyed soul, disco, go-go, line dances, and the Lost 45s. So come with me as I take you on to a trip to the destination genre of black music right now on the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. Welcome to the Black Soul Music Experience. I'm Sam Wilson Jr., and I have a special guest on my show, and it's a Blue-Eyed Soul White Chocolate episode as we continue to celebrate Black Music Month. This lady that I'm about to introduce to you is from the state of Pennsylvania. She is a Blue-Eyed Soul singer who grew up on Motown, soul artist, and hip-hop. And I got a chance to check out her videos and download some of her songs, which is available right now on iTunes. And let me tell you, this girl got soul. So please help me welcome to the Black Soul Music Experience, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Jackie Carson. Hi, Jackie. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to my podcast. It is a pleasure to have you here. I've been trying to get you to be on my podcast since I started season 4, which we are on season 4 for the longest. And now I got a chance to get you on my show.
I'm
Thank
honored.
you for being here.
Yep, I'm honored to be on here. I love soul
Oh,
music.
okay. So we're going to have a wonderful conversation, and let us begin. As I say, America doesn't know who you are, the world doesn't know who you are, so I'm very delighted to reach out to some independent artists who trying to get their time to shine. So let us begin, shall we? Now, as I mentioned, you're from the state of Pennsylvania. What city or town were you born in the state of Pennsylvania?
I grew up in a really small town called Boyers, Pennsylvania, and it's close to Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania. It's about probably 10 minutes from Slippery Rock, PA, another small town, but
Okay.
very small population. I grew up in the country, and it's probably 25 minutes to half an hour to a store from Boyers.
Now, how far is Boyers and Slippery Rock from Pittsburgh, PA?
It's 1 hour north of Pittsburgh, between Pittsburgh and Erie.
Okay. Now, were your parents in the music industry or did they had 9 to 5 day jobs?
My dad was a musician when he was in high school and in his early 20s. He was a guitarist and he played in a lot of bands professionally. And then I found out he was a songwriter as well, that he actually told me whenever he had COVID, he said that he wrote songs, and I was surprised because I had no idea. I think I remembered him maybe writing one song when I was a kid. And he told me that he didn't really believe in himself with his songs. He never turned them into anybody. And then he pretty much just gave up music, and he actually started fixing appliances at Sears Roebuck and Company in the 70s, and then eventually started his own appliance business. He grew up in the hood as well, in a really bad area of Pittsburgh, but he loved all types of music. He did expose me to some soul music. He liked the Drifters and Temptations and some of the Motown groups, Sam Cooke. So he exposed me, and I got into them even more than him. Like I just think a lot of the groups like the Jackson 5 and them I got into more. He liked some of their songs, but I was like obsessed with them compared to my dad. But he pretty much just gave up, kind of like most people do, even though he was talented. He was like, "Oh, I have to work. I have to give up this music. It'll never go anywhere. I have to work and provide for my family." And then he pretty much quit music. besides like playing it for the family and stuff like that.
Now, your mom passed away in March from CTE. What is CTE?
CTE is concussion syndrome. A lot of the football players get it in the NFL. I think that one of the Patriots, they had a special on that actually, I think he actually murdered two people. They think it was caused by brain injury, but they have a lot of rage, and their brain kind of deteriorates because they've had so many concussions, and it develops into early onset Alzheimer's. So she was diagnosed. They actually diagnosed her with early onset Alzheimer's when she was 59, and that was just from so many concussions that she had.
Well, my condolences goes out to you in the loss of your mother.
Thank you.
Now, which high school did you go to?
I went to Montauk High School. It's in the middle of nowhere, really, about 15 minutes from Slippery Rock, pretty close to it.
And which college did you go to?
Slippery Rock University.
And what was your major in college?
I was actually undecided. I loved music, and I tried out for music and actually got turned down. Whenever I went there, it was kind of funny. I tried out. Now, I was really sick during tryouts. I couldn't even talk. That's how sick. Like, I had a really bad cold at the time. But I tried out. I was going to major in music, but I don't really sing like choir teachers in an ordinary college. I have more of a soul voice. And I actually was somewhat bullied in high school by my choir teacher because I had more of a nasal sound. And I feel that it was because of, singing with soul music and stuff. As a kid, I love soul music. I think that black music is the best music there is. I really do. They influenced Elvis Presley. They influenced everybody. So I love the music and got bullied in the more conservative area where I'm at because of my vocals. They would say, "You sing nasally. I can't stand that." And they actually gave me really low ratings in Pennsylvania because like of having a more nasal sound. But that's one thing I wanted to come out about with school districts is I don't feel that they should force kids to only sing a style like a choir teacher. They kind of push more of the Broadway type, you know what I mean? Like a teacher in a school teaches. And I think they need to recognize the other genres in schools because I don't think it's right to bully a kid because they take on different genres. Country also has a more nasal sound that, I can sing country as well. And I really did. I got bullied by teachers, put down. I almost quit music in high school because of it. And then SRU sent me try out again next year letter. And what's really funny about that is I sent a tape to the Pittsburgh Penguins, a VHS tape in '99, and I sang the national anthem. I used to sing it in high school, an R&B type voice. And I sent it to the Penguins, and I got a call back on the machine the very day Slippery Rock University turned me down. I turned on the answering machine, and they said, "We loved your tape from the national anthem. We want you to come to the Mellon Arena to try out to sing at a Penguins game." So I'm like, how can I get turned down by the school and my vocals always put down and then get chosen by the Penguins for a tryout? I thought that was different.
Mhm. Now, speaking of Elvis Presley, your parents were Elvis Presley's fans. Were you a fan of Elvis too?
I was. I was a fan of Elvis. I think that he seemed to have really good manners. He seemed like a nice guy that loved everybody and was very talented, kind of like Michael Jackson, where you saw him just do things like dress different, how he'd perform. He'd always like space his fingers out when he'd sing, like little things like that. But I mean, the girls would love it. They'd pass out, or I liked how he was friendly to fans. There was a lady got on the stage and he said hi and like waved to her. And I see some stars today, Michael Jackson would embrace with his fans and hug them. And I think that that's how you should treat your fans because they're who make you who you are. And I just noticed some And I think it was Adam Levine. It was one person I saw, and he made like a yucky face when a fan came on stage like this, and I don't like that. I feel like Elvis and Michael. I think that you should be thankful of them. I mean, you might be a little bit at risk, if they get past security, but like I do think security should keep you safe. But I really think that your fans are what matter the most. There's a reason that you're a star. So I love that about Elvis, and I just think he was really talented. He was attractive, good looking. I really think a lot of that, he was part Cherokee Indian, and I think it kind of gave him like a unique look, made him attractive.
Now, your grandmother and your aunt went to Hollywood to see the Elvis comeback special on NBC back in 1968. Now, tell us about their reaction when they got a chance to see him in person.
I think that was actually the special. I'm not sure if it was Hollywood. I thought it was Vegas where that was filmed, but I'm not sure. I just know
Hmm.
he had like the black leather outfit. I think he was 42 when he came back.
Yes. Hmm.
And they were actually, my dad's sister told me that they were gambling in Vegas, and people came across like the hallway, and they said, "Hey, over in this other room, they're having an Elvis comeback special. Do you ladies want to come?" And my aunt was all excited, and they're like, "Heck yeah, we love Elvis," because they actually saw him before that. So they got a table. It was like a dinner show, kind of like his movies always had like those little dinner tables. And it was a dinner show, and my aunt said there was some publicity stunt a little bit. They would have a lot of young girls around him screaming, and you would see the cameras like focusing in because they were really trying to make it like a big deal, on camera. But she said there were a lot of people that were just sitting at a table watching. So that was kind of interesting to hear that they did that on purpose.
Now, while your father is not working, since you have talked about this earlier, what was your dad's hobbies?
My dad, he loves music, of course, listening to music, playing guitar on the side. He likes fishing. He loves to fish. He loves going on vacations and the beach. And I'm trying to think what else. He watches football and stuff like that as well. He likes sports. So I would say those are probably his hobbies.
Now, growing up, what instruments did you play?
I took organ lessons for about 2.5 years. I used to play by ear most of the instruments that Dad would have at the house. I would pick them up and figure out the notes and play them by ear. And then eventually I learned how to actually read music when I took organ lessons. And then I've taken a few guitar lessons with my son. I actually would love to go back to guitar. I'm thinking of taking more lessons here soon.
And how many siblings did you have?
I have a big sister and a big brother. I'm the youngest. We're all 2 years apart.
Now, you had your own record player. Now, growing up, what was some of your type of music did you listen to?
I would say when I was really little, we probably had a little bit of a less ordinary home because my dad, not only appliances did he fix, whenever he was 10, he learned how to fix old fashioned radios and TVs and record players and things. So he's also kind of a hoarder. So he has like thousands of record players and 8 tracks and cassette players, guitars, everything. Like he'll have 100 of each one. And because he learned how to fix radios and TVs, like the old fashioned ones at a young age, anytime he would see one, even if someone was giving it away for free, Dad could repair it. So that's kind of how he also collected records. He probably has 10 or 20,000 records. He has so many records. It's like unbelievable. It fills a whole entire room, all of his records. So it was normal for us to each have a record player in our room that had like an old fashioned radio hooked to it. And we used to have 33s and 45s. I remember the Jackson 5 was one, it was like a 45. It was ABC on one side and I Want You Back on the other. And that song I sang, I Want You Back, I liked more than ABC. I loved the soul in Michael's voice. But I would sing with that over and over again. And I actually can hear the soul in my new song "Never Let You In Again," which I can kind of like hear his influence with that song from singing that so many times as a kid. But I really liked a lot of 50s and 60s music. I used to get it confused, and my dad told me that doo-wop was more like my brother would listen to like Runaround Sue by Dion and the Belmonts. We saw him in concert a bunch of times. Frankie Valli, people like that my dad really liked. And Sam Cooke, I really like. I think that he was amazing. He was a really good musician. So a lot of like 50s and 60s music we would listen to. And my brother and I shared a room. So we would get in a lot of fights over who's playing what song. We would both turn it up, and like I'd turn mine up and then my brother would turn his up. And it was terrible. Like coming out of upstairs, you'd hear like battling. And one battle we got in, he liked Milli Vanilli, and I'm trying to think who I liked at the time. I think back then I liked Color Me Bad or Boyz II Men. It was one of the two. We had like a favorite. And he was like, no, Milli Vanilli's the best. And then he found out about how they said they weren't really singing their songs. And he was like all devastated. But he still has that record. And he used to tell me, this is probably worth money, he tells me, his Milli Vanilli record. But it was like a battle, like, with our music, my brother and I. And then I also would say that we were influenced a lot by when VH1 and MTV came out, because I was like really small. My siblings were older. And I vaguely remember we would actually hold up those old play recorders that schools had. You'd hit like play record, with like the red button and hold it in. And we'd hold it up to like the radio to record a song with a cassette in it. And one of them we recorded was Mickey by Tony Basil. And we would listen to like a lot of those songs that were on, like Cyndi Lauper, Madonna, all of those pop influences as well. Robert Palmer, he was a big one. I saw him in concert.
Now, growing up, who were some of your favorite soul artists? You mentioned Michael Jackson. Who were some of the others?
I would say definitely the entire Jackson family, the Jackson 5, Janet. I loved Janet Jackson and Michael's videos. I'd always wait for them to dance, the break in the song where they would dance. Paula Abdul I listened to a lot. Like the older eras, I would say Sam Cooke from the 50s. I think he's more from the 50s. And then pretty much all Motown singers. I liked Stevie Wonder, Freda Payne. I liked Band of Gold. My mom used to have that record. Whitney Houston later on I got really into. Trying to think who else. My dad played the Drifters a lot. We met the Drifters when I was little at a circus and got their autograph. I like the Ruffins, David and his brother. I know David was from the Temptations, but Jimmy Ruffin, I think. What Becomes of a Broken Hearted. Pretty much all Motown I was really influenced by, and anyone Berry Gordy had under him, they were all big influences.
Now, what got you into songwriting?
I would say I was probably 8 years old. I might have even been younger, like 6 years old. My mom was actually a poet, and when she passed away, we found a book of poetry. So my mom was really into poetry, and I'm not really sure. I was a scapegoat child, kind of, in the family. And I think that I turned to music because it was my escape from like a bad childhood. Because my parents ended up divorced when I was 15, but there was a lot of fighting in our home. And I think that it was kind of my escape, going in my room, listening to music and singing and stuff like that. So I think my first song lyrics, I'm actually going to go search for them at my dad's because I think they're in an organ bench there. But my uncle got sent to the first Gulf War, and I remember one of my first songs I wrote, I was worried about him, my mom's little brother, because he was overseas fighting in Saudi Arabia and places like that. So that was the first song that I ever wrote, I think. Besides
Now, oh, okay. Now, didn't you once work at BMI?
I worked with some people that from Virginia that worked with Teddy Riley, Salt and Pepper, Timbaland, and a couple people. I just always end up working with people in Virginia from the music industry. And it's kind of that group of people because you know how Teddy Riley's from Virginia and like Timbaland and all them. And the one guy, he had a rap group called 3 Feet, and his name was Troy Mitchell. He was signed with Salt and Pepper was their label, and then worked with Teddy and Timbaland on Timbaland and Magoo. So he actually just told me how to set up my BMI. He said, whenever I register, put it under my name, but make myself a publishing company as well. So I have JM Carson Publishing that I made through BMI. And then that's like for like writer share and publishing as my pro whenever I write a song with somebody, you know, with my split sheets and stuff like that.
Now, before you became a singer, didn't you once work as a case analysis?
Yep, I have worked for the federal government 23 years and received many awards over the years. I actually have a couple of neurological conditions and chronic pain that I also fight behind the scenes. I fell near 20 feet whenever I was 6 from a 2-story barn. It They thought I only broke my arm, but I found out whenever I was in 2013 they did an MRI and I actually injured my spinal cord from the fall. And they noticed fluid in my C6. It's a cyst called a syrinx. And there's really no cure. All they can really do is watch it. And I'm not allowed to lift over like 35 pounds. People see me, I do squats and stuff like that, but I'm not allowed to lift a ton of weight because of my spine. But we also have cervical dystonia in our family, and I triggered mine getting whiplash when I hit a deer. I was driving to work and a deer ran into my car. So I have a lot of chronic pain, and some of it is from tremors I get from cervical dystonia. Sometimes the condition's so strong it can pull people's head back like this, like their neck spasms. So I have to take Parkinson's medicine because it's the same part of the brain. And Parkinson's medicine has really brutal side effects. So I often, when reviewing, national security stuff, was passing out, throwing up and stuff from side effects. And then I ended up, it almost became a threat to national security from passing out and stuff from the Parkinson's medicine. So they have disability retirement that you can go on where you still can get like half salary and then your benefits, but it's kind of like retiring early, kind of like military members get a pension, after they get out. So then I can do other things. I have an alcohol company that I'm planning on working on more, and then it gives me a lot more time for songwriting and stuff, which is nice. But sadly, I wanted to keep continuing, but I just was getting so sick and passing out from the medicine all the time. And then they said that I talked to my neurologist, and there's really nothing that you can do with side effects. So anybody that has Parkinson's or dystonia, they have brutal medication that we have to take, like for our side effects. They said there's no getting around it. And then you have to take the medicine to control the symptoms, like the spasms and stuff like that. So that's pretty much what I have done now. I'm still actually having my paperwork processed. It takes forever, especially with the administration right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you for your service as being a case
Thank you.
analyst. When I looked at LinkedIn, I was like, case analyst? Was she what, as a private detective or something?
It was actually investigations with the Pentagon. I actually, did background investigations, 23 years, and almost every year I had an award too. It was sad like having to leave early, but I mean, one good thing is I always wanted to live at the beach, and now I can move. I won't be stuck like kind of in the middle of nowhere, in Pennsylvania. So I do look forward to, I try to look at it optimistically, like now I can do some other things with my life, and you can still keep getting your, almost like your pension thing coming in and then be able to work. I think you're allowed to make 85% of the salary you had or something like in the private sector before they'll boot you off or something like that. But but it gave me some opportunities. I finally could work on music a lot more, which is nice.
Wow. Well, me growing up when we watching all these detective shows, like everybody had worked in the corporate world, and since everyone had left, whether it's disabilities or et cetera, they'll have their own detective agencies. So when I see like Mannix and Cannon, Barnaby Jones, Jim Rockford, John Shaft, Charlie's Angels, those private detectives, just me growing up, watching them on movies and on TV. But in real life, when everyone worked in the corporate world, like me, as a former Viacom CBS Paramount employee, I was doing DJ gigs on the side. But before that, I had a second job at AM 1460 WVOX Radio in New Rochelle, New York. Not only I was a radio DJ personality, but I was also a radio board operator. When we have guests in the studio coming in, I would do the radio boards or the potinator. That's what they would call it back then. And if you have like a caller who wants to call in, I would tap the window and have the guest caller number one, caller number two, you're on the air and everything. So that was my big break while I still had my day job at Viacom CBS Paramount. And I've been there for 35 years. And unfortunately, back in March of last year, I was laid off after all the mergers and everything. So when the People Development Program came up, while I was waiting for a DJ gig, podcast was on the list. And my supervisor says, you have a voice for it, you should sign up. And my paternal cousin, who's in the music business, I haven't met him yet, he said, you should do a music podcast. So I'm still waiting for him to hook me up with his aunt to interview some groups.
Oh, that'd be really
So,
fun. Yep. It's sad whenever you have to leave when you were somewhere so long and when you were there for so many years, it is whenever you get sick, like a neurological disease, and you have to leave early. It's kind of shocking. Like I wasn't expecting it, but I just try to go through life optimistically. Obviously, God wants me to go a different path for some reason, so just you know do the best I can with other stuff. And oh, I forgot to
mm,
mention too, my dad, because he fixed televisions and stuff when he was really young in Pittsburgh, he actually fixed Roberto Clemente's television and Mr. Rogers. Both of them, their TVs, which I thought was interesting.
oh, wow, that's good to know. And speaking of that, I got a chance to check out your videos on YouTube, and I already downloaded a couple of songs from iTunes. Now, who were some of your musical influences that had inspired you to sing?
I would say I always go back to Michael Jackson and the Jackson Five. I think that Michael was probably my favorite musician ever. I think a lot of people like me, like I was born in '81, but a lot of us were so inspired by Michael Jackson that Prince. I also liked Prince, and I like how he wrote a bunch of songs for other artists as well. I'm always trying to write a hit song for myself, but I'd love to be able to write songs for others as well. But pretty much all the same Motown people that I've named, earlier, and the pop singers, they were all big influences. But Michael and Janet were big ones. Whitney Houston, she could really sing. Whitney, she was amazing.
Hmm. Now, I got a chance to check out your 1 minute or 2 minute videos on LinkedIn and seeing you perform and in front of a live audience. When you performed on stage, what was your reaction when you performed in front of an African American audience?
I feel really honored when they like my music because really I'm inspired by black music, myself, and I'm glad that they accept me. I feel accepted, and one thing that I do hate to see online is I think Beyonce is a great artist. She's great at country, she's great at R&B, and I hate when people like give her a hard time for singing country. You know what I mean? I think that we should always welcome anybody to sing any genre of music, no matter what it is. If it's
Hmm.
and They're actually, the African American community is really supportive. I made a lot of friends over the years in Pittsburgh and Ohio, and they actually surprised me because some of the songs weren't released yet at my last performance, and they cheered a lot after a brand new one, and it made me feel great. I was like, oh, good, they'll like it when I sang it, but just great. I actually had one person, I must have met him at an event a year or two before. He was a rapper at one of the events. He came up and gave me a hug, and he's like, hey, I haven't seen you in years, and I'm like, I can't remember who that is. Like, I didn't want to sound like, like a jerk because I didn't remember, but I just make so many friends everywhere with, I absolutely have a great relationship with African Americans. Like, we hug each other, they cheer me on and stuff, I cheer them on. So that's the way that I think it should be. And I really hate whenever I see online, and, as an artist, I always want to speak about this, that really small percentage of whites that are racist. Like, all I say to people is, people, for the majority, people like myself are not. And then it makes you mad whenever people in your race are that way. You wish that you could get rid of them. You wish you could stop them from from being racist. And I'm like, I always hope that people don't listen to that small majority and think that we all were that way. I always hope that the relations keep getting better, like Martin Luther King Jr. wanted, that we keep going in a direction like that. So that's pretty much how I feel.
Me growing up, when I listened to black radio, and me growing up in the NYC, I would listen to WBLS, and Frankie Crocker, the late Frankie Crocker, radio DJ personality, on his show, he would play anything. And me growing up, when I listened to all my favorite artists, I thought everybody was black. But when I watched the artists, whether they were on American Bandstand or Soul Train or Solid Gold or NBC Saturday Night Live, then we will find out that they're white, but they got
Buddy Holly.
soul.
Yeah, probably Buddy Holly was one.
And even my late mother, when we say Hall and Oates, I knew them they were white because back then, I remember back in the day, we had K-Tel and Ronco and Adam 8. They would announce the name of the group who sang that song, and I saw the picture. They're like, "Why? Oh, they were white. Oh, but they got soul." And my late mother didn't even know this in the first place. But like I said, Frankie Crocker will play anything. He didn't care if it was white, black, Latino, Asian, Caribbean, Native American, or LGBTQ. He knew that music was music. If the music fits for his show, he will play it. He didn't care about anything. He knew that music brings people together and unite. And the same thing on Soul Train when Don Cornelius brought in some other blue-eyed soul performers. Everybody from David Bowie and Elton John and Captain and Tennille and Tina Marie and the Average White Band. They were there, and Gino Vanelli too. They were first. They were there on Soul Train, still up to this date until it signed off in 2006. So soul has no color. When you hear their voice, you'll probably notice they were black or they may be from another race, but God doesn't make no mistakes.
Yeah, one thing that kind of made me sad, and I have a really close friend, really close black friend, Anthony's his name, and he was trained by Missy Elliott and Teddy Riley back in Virginia again. I have a lot of contacts there. He's one of my best friends. We talk all night long, write songs together. And I told him something I saw that was kind of sad, and that's why I get mad at the people that are racist that are white. And I believe there's racism in all races. There's that small majority that we all wish weren't that way because it keeps the fire going, back and forth. And I saw a page and it said, what did it say? It was on Facebook. It said, ask a white person anything. And I was like, I want to see the questions, so I was reading the questions and I was trying to answer them honestly. And one of them was, what is your favorite black TV show or something? And I loved answering that because I watch Family Matters all the time on TBS. And then I actually get mad when they take it off. They put that Young Sheldon show on. And I think that show's stupid. Like, I love Family Matters. You know, it's funny. It teaches, like, family values and all that stuff. And I love The Cosby Show. Like, there were so many shows I loved. And, you know, she put a heart on it when I answered, you know, like, oh, like, kind of, she was kind of surprised, you know, that we listened to or watch black shows, you know. But the thing that made me sad that I told Anthony is reading down through, sometimes I would see, why do you hate us? I would see, like, why do you hate us from people down through? And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, some people think that whites hate them. And it made me sad because I'm like, who is being mean to you to make you think that way? Like, and then I'll see, like, the racist officers whenever they're racist to blacks and stuff. And we wish that we could stop people like that. I myself do. And one way that I would explain myself would be, I don't know if you ever watched that show Little House on the Prairie. Did you watch that show?
Yep.
And you would see Pa, like, they would be mean to the only black man. You know, they'd be like, you have to go outside, you know, on the train car or whatever. And you know how, like, Pa would go out and sit with them? Like, that would be me. I would be like, fine, I'm going out to sit with the firewood outside or the coal with them as they ride outside. Like, I would be that person, but I just absolutely hate those people that are, like, you know, on there saying Beyonce shouldn't be singing and putting people down and stuff like that. I get angry when I see it. I'm like, can you stop this? This never helps the racial relations and the fighting and stuff like that. Like, you wish you could just abolish them from from our community. But I just hope that nobody actually thinks that, because there are so many whites that love blacks. They really do, you know? And it just makes me sad that there's people treating people like that to where they think that, where they think we would hate them, you know?
I'm very glad you brought that up because me growing up, you know, I've never listened to country music, never had. It wasn't in my vocabulary. And back in 2020, during the pandemic, when he had the CMA Awards, Maren Morris had won an award. And in her speech, she says, I want to give a shout out to all the sisters in country music. And I said, huh? You mean there's some sisters in country music that we didn't know? So then I was watching on Entertainment Tonight, and they were showing the clip from Hee Haw. And there was country singer Linda Martell. I said, oh, that black female country singer. We didn't know about this. So it's very, you know, educational when you learn about these things, because my late maternal grandfather, we listened to 1050 WHN. I was in the car with him. This was July 1978. And then I was saying, why are we listening to this? We don't listen to country music. There was only one brother in country music, and that's Charlie Pride. And if I would have asked him, he would have said that country music was made by us black folks.
That's what my
And I
friend
would
Anthony
say,
said as well. Yep, we've talked about that. That's funny you say
yeah,
that. Yep.
and I said, okay, so why are we still listening to this? And then when I went to the Smithsonian's African American History Museum back in 2022, when I went up to the top floor, and I said, oh, okay, so we've done everything. So I see the fiddle and the banjo. Okay, that was made by us black folks, brought from African slaves, brought it to America. So when I saw the picture of all the families listening to country music, I said, oh, so we see black music were playing the fiddle when you have Irish folks, Celtic dancing. So now I see something right here in this picture. So when I did season 2 of Blacks in Country Music, this was a hot button topic. You mentioned Beyonce. She did a song called Daddy's Lessons. That was from her LP Lemonade. And one time she performed with the Dixie Chicks, now called the Chicks. I think it was either on the American Music Awards or the CMA Awards. But I was watching that clip on YouTube, and let me tell you, all those country music fans were ticked off when they were saying, "Why are you letting Beyonce doing country music? You should be in the
Yeah, I
hip
hate
hop
that. Yeah,
R&B
yeah.
field." But
I
when
think
I
Shirley.
did, but when I did season 2, I said, "Let's do an experiment. Let's give them a history lesson of how blacks invented country music." So I just played some of the new artists, including Jimmy Allen and Shy Carter and Chapel Hart. Those sisters were winners from NBC America's Got Talent. And then Willie Jones. And then I started playing some those who started but didn't get any recognition, including D. Ford Bailey, who was the first to perform at the Grand Ole Opry, and Cleve Francis. He was the first African American country singer that started the Black Country Music Foundation. And then I started doing a little twist. Let's put some hip hop in the mix. So I said, let's throw in Savannah Dexter. That's the white girl who's country rap. And then put some others. I would add Jerry Reed and Johnny Cash and Dolly Parton. Now, they were inspired by rap or eucharistic raps. They would talk or rap at the same, segue into the song and stuff like that. But then they were influenced by Isaac Hayes and Barry White. And then let's throw it in there. So I had Breland and I had Lil Nas X, who his song Old Town Road, #1 on Billboard's country singles charts. But then by April of 2019, Billboard pulled it off the charts, saying it wasn't country enough. So then Lil Nas X brought in Billy Ray Cyrus,
Oh, I didn't even
remixed it.
realize they pulled it. Yeah, I didn't realize they did that. That's
Yep.
crazy.
They remixed it, made it real country again. #1 again. And then I close it out with those who crossed all genres. That includes Ray Charles, also the Pointer Sisters, and also Linda Ronstadt and Kenny Rogers, and just to name a few. They've crossed over genres. And Lionel Richie too. He did a song called "Stuck on You." That was a country song from his "Can't Slow Down"
Didn't Elvis
LP.
do that too? Stuck on You? Did he redo it, Elvis? He had Stuck on You as well, didn't he? Or is it a different
N-
version? It might be a
no,
different song.
no. I think it was someone else that wrote the song, but I think Elvis Presley did "You're Always on My Mind," and then Willie Nelson did the remake of it. So that was the one that I knew.
One
But
country song I love is Darius Rucker Wagon Wheel when he did the one that's from Hootie and the Blowfish. I love that song. I'd play that over and over, Wagon Wheel. That's a great song. He did a great
wow,
job.
yes.
Yeah, I get upset when they should be cheering for Beyonce and welcoming her to country, not doing this petty stuff. I don't like it at all. I'd love to do a song with Beyonce. I actually sing country as well. I'm actually thinking of doing a few country songs and R&B, and I'd be honored to sing with her. I think it'd be amazing getting to sing country with her. She can dance good. I love watching her as a mother with her kids on stage. I like watching her little
Hmm.
girls get up there with her. I think it's great.
Right. Now, I see you're into hip hop. We just mentioned some artists a few minutes ago. What were some of your favorite artists in hip hop?
I did like Tupac Shakur a lot, of course. I actually listened. I remember a carload of us listening to when Puff Daddy came out. It's a shame, what's going on with that right now. But Can't Nobody when that came out, I loved that song. I'm getting influenced a lot. I think I put that in there. I have a son that he just turned 16, and he plays a lot of the rappers a younger generation like, and I actually like a lot of their music. He plays King Von. Sadly, two of them passed away, Juice World and X. That one that got, killed in Florida, sadly, at the motorsport place. And my son actually, we're both really intuitive. We both are like psychic mediums, and we get emotional about whenever artists pass away, and he gets pretty emotional about it. Like, he's been in tears before. I think he feels the emotions from those artists. He'll be like, I was crying listening to X today. And he'll tell me
Hmm.
that, and I think, just like I would do from that Selena that passed away. Remember her fan club
Wow.
lady killed her?
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like we feel their emotions, and me and him get really emotional when we listen to artists that have passed away. But I like a lot of the ones that he's playing in the car, and trying to think which other ones back there. I like Snoop Dogg. I do like Snoop's music. I like Drop It Like It's Hot. I like that
Mm-hmm.
song. Some of the older hip hop. I guess one thing I'm trying to do is when I write my music, I'm trying to have kind of the more 90s R&B sound, but I like to mix in stuff from today. So it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't sound too dated, and maybe get like some of the effects from today or a rapper from today mixed in my songs. Like I think that would be really good because it would still
Mm-hmm.
have that 90s sound a little bit.
Right. Now, who were some of your artists that you have performed with so far on one of your singles?
I have on my song To Be Mine, there's a great rapper. His name's Hollywood Swervo, and he's actually from Minneapolis, but I believe he lived in Miami and Atlanta before. And he's actually been featured himself in a couple of famous artists and their music. One that was in his song was FBG Duck from Chicago that got killed, gang related stuff, I think, up there, sadly. And he's in my song To Be Mine. I think he's a really good rapper, for anyone that wants to check him out. And I've actually already talked to him. I'm hoping to have him in a few more songs with me because I think he's really talented. But
Mm-hmm.
he had a song go viral called Thug Life. He used a beat from Tupac and had his own version of Thug Life that went viral last year on TikTok. And they
Mm-hmm.
were using political videos back and forth, battling, using his song, so it took off. And then
Mm-hmm.
I had Trevor Donnelly. He was a Navy veteran that got signed to Rostrum Records with Mac Miller. Mac Miller and Wiz Khalifa when they were there. And
Mm-hmm.
he was with Rostrum for a few years, and he's featured in my song Superstar. I think he finally retired from music and like started his own cyber business, I think. And I'm trying to think who else. I recently, the last year, I actually worked with some people from Cash Money Records, like some of their artist development and some of their producers and A&Rs I was working on music with. Their artist development actually mixed Never Let You In Again. That's like actually one of their producers or A&Rs did. So that was an experience, getting to meet some of them. It's pretty neat.
Okay. Now, here's a question that I always ask my guests, living or dead, which performer that you wish you wanted to meet or to perform with?
Well, one that I actually was sad that I did look up, and I love taking my dad to see oldie singers. And I never knew how Sam Cooke passed away. And I said to my dad, like, I like to go to see golden oldies, like, you know what I mean, bands and stuff, because they're not going to be around much longer. And I want to take my dad, and I would say Sam Cooke would be one. I went to look into it because I wanted to take him, and then I read about his horrific death, what happened to him and stuff. Like he was standing up for black rights, and I had no idea. I was just, because that happened a long time before I was born. So I just thought it was sad because he seemed to really stand up whenever people were mistreated. And then it seems like they killed him. I think it was in California or something, wasn't it?
Yeah,
But
he stayed at a hotel,
they framed him or
and
something, it sounded like.
right, or something like that. But there's the other side that we didn't know, that Sam Cooke had his own record label called SAR, that's SAR. So he wanted to make sure that all the artists get their creative control and everything and to get paid and to make sure that they would like to get on the record line as always. So he always looks out for some other recording artists, and not only that, to make sure that the artists get paid equally, not less.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't realize he did that. I like read stories about him sticking up for people that were mistreated, blacks that were mistreated and stuff, which I think he was it Malcolm X and a few of them too, or Muhammad Ali? I think they were like friends or something, some of them.
Yeah, I think there was a documentary on Amazon. That had What If You Had Sam Cooke and Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali at that night. I've heard about it, and I said to myself, was that a true story? So I'll have to look for it somewhere on the line on YouTube or some other things and everything like that. Now, here on the Black Soul Music Experience, I always ask my guests who are the top 10 R&B black artists of all time. Now, since I have you, Jackie, we're going to be doing the Black Soul Music Experience R&B black and blue-eyed soul artists of all time. Now, here's how it works. We start like a top 10 countdown, like the show America's Top 10 with Casey Kasem. We start at the bottom five or find out who was the best singer but didn't get any recognition. Then we get to the top five. We would like to find out who was the best artist of all time. That artist had top 10 number one hits. That artist received a gold, platinum, double platinum, triple platinum, or today's diamond platinum. That artist receive a Grammy Award or an American Music Award or a Soul Train Award or a BET Award or an MTV VMA Award. That artist got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, or that artist performed on American Bandstand or Soul Train or the Midnight Special or NBC Saturday Night Live or Solid Gold, or that they had their prime time special on CBS or NBC or ABC, or that they had their special on PBS, whether it's great performances or their special during Pledge Month, or that they had their live concert special on HBO or Showtime. So, Jackie, are you ready to take that challenge?
I'm ready. I was thinking of artists as you're speaking, like ones of like I should have named these ones earlier, a few of them.
Okay. Who should be at number 10?
Okay, so one is the one that is the most influential.
Right.
Okay. Oh, let me think here. Number 10. I'm trying to think. I actually thought of some whenever you were number 10. Ah, man, they're all good. I at least would put Prince in there. We'll start with Prince. There's some that I actually myself like better, but I loved how unique he was. Prince, he was just always so different. Could play instruments great and stuff. So I'm going to add him in as well.
Okay, Prince will be at number 10, representing, born and bred in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He's a singer, songwriter, musician, royal badness, and everything. Now, I can tell you that some of his songs weren't become top 10 hits. For example, Do Me Baby and Nothing Compares to You, although he wrote the song but didn't become hits for him. But that song, Nothing Compares to You, later became a hit for the late Sinead O'Connor. And Do Me Baby later became a hit for Miss Melissa Morgan. Number one on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts. And I was watching an episode of Unsung, so when I saw the album Do Me Baby written by Prince, I thought Prince wrote the song for Melissa. But then when I was watching Unsung on TV One, the producers for Melissa Morgan's debut LP, they wanted her to redo the song. And Melissa said, I ain't doing that song. It's kind of like too raunchy. But then she did the song, and the rest was history. Number one on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts for 2 weeks. So Prince had written some others, including I Feel For You. That too didn't become a hit, but it became a hit for Shaka Khan. And he also wrote the song Manic Monday.
For the
That
Bangles.
became a hit for the Bangles. So he was influenced by the late James Brown. I've seen a couple of his music videos, including 1999, strutting everything. Got his high heel boots on, the guitar, everything, the splits, and everything. So, and his movie Purple Rain, motion picture soundtrack, sold over 1 million copies in print. His movie Purple Rain grossed over $30 million at the box office. He won an American Music Award for that. and got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the class of 2004. And he had battled with Warner Brothers Records, so he had to change his name to an unknown symbol. So he continued to do everything, sing and write and everything. So everything turns to gold. So rest in peace to Prince, and we'll put him at number 10. Who should be at number 9?
You know what? There was one group that I didn't mention earlier that they were a big influence of mine. Was SWV, Sisters with Voices. I loved their song "Weak" when it came out, and and Bobby Brown, he's another one, new edition. But I really loved the song "Weak," and then I remember it went number one in '93 with SWV. But I actually got on the Drewski show, and I surprised Drewski because I sang "Weak" by SWV. I don't know if you saw that or not, but I surprised him, and he's like, "Come on, let's see what you got," you know. And then I started singing SWV, and then he came up dancing behind me and put his arm around me. Drewski did, but they were. I liked their whole album. I could listen to SWV's entire album. They had a few albums I liked, and I heard Coco perform this year, like earlier this year, maybe it was late last year, and she sounds exactly the same. No effects on her voice, and her, the backup singers with her, the whole group, they sound amazing. So I actually want to add them to my top 10 because like they were a big influence to me. Sisters with Voices.
Yes, Sisters with Voices representing the Bronx and Brooklyn, New York. Coco and Lele represents the Boogie Down Bronx, New York, and their friend Taj from Brooklyn. I got a chance to see them back in 1992. I was at the Museum of Television and Radio, which is now called the Paley Museum in New York City. I got a chance to see Frankie Crocker live in the MTR studio. I was at after work back in November of 92. I was there sitting, in the audience, and I saw these three sisters, and I said, who are they? They were there to promote their new single, and I would find out later that will be SWV. So, as you mentioned, they had their debut LP, which had the songs including Weak, Top 10 Ballad Hit, also I'm So Into You, Downtown, and many other
Right
hits
here.
back in
There's
the
so
90s.
many.
Yeah, Right Here. That includes the song I like, Right Here, and then it just remix it with
With Michael
some.
Jackson in it too, right? Yep, they had
Hmm.
Human Nature mixed in. That was a great song.
Yes, right. So we'll put SWV or Sisters with Voices at number 9. Who should be at number 8?
One other person I'd love to add, a lot of it was his songwriting ability, was Smokey Robinson. Because he
Ah,
wrote
the one and
I,
only.
I Want You
Yes.
Back. I think he wrote, what was it, 3,000 some songs? I think Smokey wrote, didn't he write thousands?
Yeah, he wrote thousands of songs. He was a lead singer for The Miracles back in the inception 1960, including Shop Around, The Tracks of My Tears, and Ooh Baby Baby, and I Second That Emotion, and Baby Baby Don't Cry, just to name a few. And then by 1972, he went on solo. He had some solo LPs back in
Temptations. He
1973
wrote the
with his
Temptations
debut.
songs too.
Yes, he wrote the song My Girl for the Temptations as well. Number one hit for the Temptations as well. And as I said, he had some solo LPs back in 1973 with Baby Come Close and Holly. That was from his Smokey LP. I saw the album cover and I saw that globe or that crystal ball like full of smoke and everything. And then he had some other LPs with Pure Smokey from with the single I Am. And then we got to The Quiet Storm, which he had hits including Baby Backs That At Ya and The Quiet Storm and The Agony and the Ecstasy and The Wedding Song. And in case you may not know, that LP was later inspired by all of the black radio stations, and that's why they came up with The Quiet Storm at night, playing all of the slow jams, classic soul in today's R&B, and they're still doing it today. That's that format that they do. Some of the black radio stations. Some will start at 9, some will start at 7, some will start at 10 o'clock. So still up to date. They would use that Quiet Storm format. And he had some other hits, including Cruisin' and also Being With You. That was number 1 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts. And also Just to See Her and One Heartbeat, just to name a few. And the list goes on and on and on. So we'll put Smokey Robinson at number 8. Who should be at number 7?
I think somewhere on this list I got to add Whitney Houston, of course. I don't know. It's so hard to choose which order because I love them all. But Whitney Houston could really sing. She was a big influence.
All right, the Princess of Pop, the late Whitney Houston, coming out of East Orange, New Jersey. She is the daughter of the late Cissy Houston and the cousin of Miss Dion and Dee Dee Warwick. And no, they are not related to singer Thelma Houston, who Thelma Houston is from the Midwest, but Cissy and Whitney and Dion represents the East Coast. She made her debut back in 1984 with a duet with the late Teddy Pendergrass called Hold Me in Your Arms Tonight. And then her self-titled debut LP broke out in 1985 with her songs including You Give Good Love and also other tunes including Saving All My Love, How Will I Know, and the remake of The Greatest Love of All. All became top 10 number 1 hits. She won a Grammy and an American Music Award for Best New Artist. Other hits have followed, including I Wanna Dance with Somebody, and also including Where Do Broken Hearts Go, Didn't We Almost Had It All. Other songs in the 90s, including I'm Your Baby Tonight, and she did the remake of I Believe in You and Me, and also Waiting to Exhale. And she made her acting debut from the movie The Bodyguard, which she did the remake of Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You, top 10 hit.
It's a powerful voice. She's such a powerful voice. I loved it.
Yes, and other movies, including Waiting to Exhale and The Preacher's Wife, which is the remake of The Bishop's Wife. And she made some TV appearances. She was on an episode of Silver Spoons on NBC, and also on NBC Saturday Night Live. She did the Christmas skit along with guest host Rosie O'Donnell and the late Penny Marshall. So she did a lot, and got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the class of 2020. So rest in peace to the late Princess of Pop, Whitney Houston, at number 7. Who should be at number 6?
Number 6. Let me think here. I just thought of it. Oh, one I'd like to add is Stevie Wonder. I love Stevie Wonder a lot. I like Part-Time Lover. I loved by him. I Just Called to Say I Love You. And I just think he influenced a lot of people, Stevie. And I guess he's the Jackson's cousin, is what I heard Janet say.
Not that I know of, but I can tell you that he started at the age of 12 when he signed with Motown Records, and his debut single was called Fingertips. His other songs, including Uptight, For Once in My Life, My Sharia Moore, Signed, Sealed, Delivered. And then when he got into the 70s, he got into some social issues with his LP Inner Visions, which include Living for the City, had to deal with systematic racism, and his other song called Too High, that's dealing with drug abuse. His other LP, Fulfilling This First Finale, number 1 hit, You Haven't Done Nothing, that was a political song. And his other song called Creepin', that was written by him, but it didn't become a hit. But it became a hit for the late Luther Vandross. So his other albums, including Songs in the Key of Life, which had Isn't She Lovely, As, and I Wish, and Hotter Than July, his LP in 1980, he dedicated that LP in memory of the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which had the song called Happy Birthday. So when you go to the clubs, when someone's celebrating a birthday, they don't want to hear that old happy birthday song. They want to hear the Stevie Wonder version. So,
Oh,
as I
okay. Yeah,
said,
I have heard them sing that.
yeah,
Happy
so
birthday. Yep.
yes, he had that LP. While at the same time, he went to Congress to make Dr. King Day a national holiday. So he done it all: singer, songwriter, arranger, activist, Grammy Award winner, American Music Award winner, Oscar winner for that song I Just Called to Say I Love You from the movie The Woman in Red, and inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the class of 1989, and a Kennedy Center honoree for the class of 1999. So we'll put the Wonder Man, Stevie Wonder, at number 6. Who should be at number 5?
Number 5. Let me think here. It's hard to decide. um, I definitely like New Edition and Bobby Brown. I was influenced by a lot. Let me think here. I think Michael and Sam Cooke are probably going to be towards the top on my list because they influenced me a lot. Let me think here. I actually was influenced. I still would like to add Frida Payne. I really love how she sang "Band of Gold" on. I think it was like American Bandstand or one of those Soul Train or something. She came out, Frida Payne. She had like a gold outfit on, and she came out singing it with so much soul, and that made me love that song. Watching her like put her like personality into it when she's singing. We'll add Frida Payne to it.
Okay, we'll put Frida Payne at number 5. You mentioned the song Band of Gold, top 10 hit back in 1970. And yes, she performed on Soul Train because I saw those Soul Train DVDs from Time Life Video. And she had a string of hits, including Deeper and Deeper, Bring the Boys Home, just to name a few. She's still performing, and then one time in 1981, she had her own talk show back in 1981 called For Today's Black Woman. I remember that show. It came on Saturday afternoon. It came on at 1:30 on WABC TV 7 New York right after American Bandstand. So I was watching a little bit there. She had some guests on the show, everyone from Melba Moore and other singers, just to name a few. And did a little acting too in between. So we'll put Frida Payne at number 5.
She was
All right,
beautiful
who should
too.
be at number 4?
Number 4. We're gonna say Michael and Sam Cooke for the top 2. Okay, who else? I think that David Ruffin was talented from the Temptations. I know he had I don't know if it was he started fighting with the band. I know, and because I watched that Temptations movie where like they thought he was like mistreating who he was dating, and then I don't know if it was like alcoholism or drug addiction or something. He started fighting with the Temptations, but I really love how he performed with them, as whenever he sang "My Girl" or "Ain't Too Proud to Beg" and stuff. I think he was really talented.
Okay,
So
we'll
we'll add
put
David Ruffin.
Okay, we'll put David Ruffin at number 4. As you mentioned, he was the former lead singer of The Temptations from its inception. And yes, by that time, I was watching an episode of Unsung, as well as The Temptations miniseries aired on NBC back in 1998 in November. Yes, he's best known for coming in late and some other things. And yes, they fired him out of the group in 1968. So by that time, a year later, 1969, he went solo. He had his debut songs, including My Whole World Has Ended the Moment You Left Me, even though it was a top 10 hit, but not that much oomph as Motown Records would have wanted it. So then he had some other LPs, didn't have that success. But until 1975, he teamed up with the late Van McCoy with his LP entitled Who Am I, which had hits Walk Away from Love, Heavy Love, Statue of a Fool, and Wild Honey, just to name a few. And 1976, he had another album along with Van McCoy, Everything's Coming Up Love. And then in 1977, one more time with Van McCoy with his LP In My Stride with a ballad called Just Let Me Hold You for One More Night. And then we haven't heard from him again until 1982 when you had the reunion. Everybody, David Ruffin, Eddie Kendricks, and Dennis Edwards, along with the original Otis Williams and Melvin Franklin and Richard Street and some others. The whole came together. 1982 reunion LP, success, success, success. And yes, even though he had to battle with some demons with drug addiction and alcohol. So when I heard on the news back in June of 1991, when I was heard the news that David Ruffin had passed away from over addiction, drug addiction, and everything in
Cocaine, I think, right?
1991.
91, right? It was,
Yes,
and
1991.
Michael Jackson paid for his funeral, I read, which was really nice.
Yes. So, yes, he got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with the Temptations back in 1989. Had a string full of hits here and there, not as much, but we'll put David Ruffin at number 4.
I love how his
All right,
brother
who
was
we
a
up?
good singer too. You know, his brother and him both. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay,
And
we're up to number 3.
number 3, let me think. Well, I know Michael and Sam Cooke are going to be in the top 2. Let me think who else. Big influence. Oh, it's so hard to decide. Um, I don't know. I would say Teddy Riley really influenced me because he's the one that produced a lot of the '90s R&B. So, can I put him in there? I guess he was an artist as well, but a
Yes,
lot
we'll
of his
put
music
Teddy
was
Riley
about.
at number 3. You know, not only he was an artist, but he was a producer and songwriter. He brought us New Jack Swing
Yep,
back
I
at
love a
the.
lot of that music, so we'll put him in there, with number 3.
Yes, he was the co-founder of the group Guy in 1988, and he produced so many artists, including Bobby Brown and also Heavy D and the Boys, and yes, Michael Jackson and so many others. And he had that R&B hip hop mix in there, so that gets you dancing. So he also took care of the group called Rex and Effect. That was a hip hop group as well.
Shaker,
So,
Rover
yes.
Rump Shaker.
Uh-huh. So we'll put Teddy Riley at number 3. Who should be at number 2?
I think I'm gonna put. I love them both. Sam Cooke, I think I'll put number 2 because I guess because Michael had so many more albums and like the dancing and just really influenced me a lot when he was little with the Jackson 5 and stuff. But they're probably my 2 top influences with soul music would be Michael Jackson, especially whenever he was little. I loved his voice when he was a little kid, the soul in his voice. And Sam Cooke, I love all his songs. Like I play him in the car still, so probably Sam number 2 and then Michael number 1.
Okay, Sam Cooke at number 2. He started out with a gospel group called the Soul Stirrers. He was there until he went on his own. He had some hits back in the early 60s, including You Send Me, Twisting the Night Away, Another Saturday Night, just to name a few. But the other song that I didn't know, he wrote a song called A Change Is Gonna Come. And I was watching the movie Malcolm X back in 1992 when they had played that song in the movie. And I was trying to look for that soundtrack LP. And even though the song wasn't on the soundtrack LP because it had influenced Dr. King, and that was fighting with the estate. So when I went to this oldie store in Midtown Manhattan, I picked up the single, and let me tell you, it was some really haunting words. This was during the civil rights movement when Dr. King was getting ready to do his I Have a Dream speech, and everything was moving. So it was uplifting, inspirational, and that would have been his last single before he was shot and killed in 1963 or 1964. But we'll put Sam Cooke at number two.
I
And
just
yes,
picture all the influence that he could have had and the other songs he could have had and stuff.
hmm
You know, being robbed his life so young, like it makes you mad. Just senseless death. Never
right.
seemed like a loving person.
hmm And yes, we'll put the king of pop, Michael Jackson, at number one. Made his debut in 1969 with his brothers with their song called I Want You Back from their debut LP. It says Diana Ross presents the Jackson 5. They had other songs back in the 70s, including ABC, The Love You Save, Dancing Machine, Never Can Say Goodbye, and just to name a few. Well, at the same time, Michael had a couple of solo albums on Motown Records, including Got to Be There, also the song Ben from the movie. It was a sequel to the 1971 movie Willard, and also as other ones in called Just a Little Bit of You, and also, had some others, but then after that, they switched over to CBS Records. They had renamed themselves the Jacksons, although Jermaine was still with Motown, but they took Randy along. So teamed up with Gamble and Huff. They had some hits including Enjoy Yourself, Let Me Show You the Way to Go, and just to name a few. And at the same time, they had their own summer variety series on CBS. So they brought in Janet and Reby and Latoya along. They've been on there for a season and a half. And then they went on to stardom. Michael Jackson and his brothers had some hits, including Shake Your Body Down to the Ground. And then some more solo LPs from Michael. He teamed up with the late Quincy Jones with his album called Off the Wall, with his single Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. Other singles, including Off the Wall, and just to name a few. He won an American Music Award back in 1980 for Best Soul Artist, Best Pop Single, Best Album Ever. And then by 1982 of December, his second solo LP, Thriller, came out. Non-stop hit, including You Wanna Be Starving Something, and also
You
Thriller,
sing
The
that.
Girl Is Mine with Paul McCartney, PYT, and Billie Jean, number one hit back in January of 1983 for 10 weeks. And also the ballad that I love, The Lady in My Life, although it didn't become a hit, but it became a hit for The Quiet Storm. I love that love ballad that he had. And also, he won an American Music Award nonstop. I was watching the American Music Awards January 16th, 1984. He swept the night. He won an American Music Award for Best R&B Soul Single, Best Pop Single, Best Rock Music Video, and an Award of Merit Album of the Year. It was Michael's night. And then by 1987, he had the Bad LP that had the 15-minute music video. And Michael was influenced by movies. He did the Thriller music video, 15 minutes, that had the late Vincent Price. He had Bad music video with an upcoming actor, Wesley Snipes. And when he had the Dangerous LP, he had the music video, Black or White. I've seen it on Fox that had George Wendt and Macaulay Culkin. And even though it was directed by John Landis, and I saw the whole video, even though they showed the thing holding his crotch, they had to tone it down when it got to MTV and VH1. And his other song, Remember the Time, 15-minute music video directed by the late John Singleton. It had cameo appearances by Eddie Murphy, Iman, and former basketball player Magic Johnson. Let me tell you, those two music videos, including the other two music videos, 15 minutes. I mean, like I said, he was
I like
influenced by the
longer songs
movies.
myself. I like being entertained longer. I hate the real short songs of today. Like, I like the longer songs that are 2 to 4 minutes that are, I think they're
Right.
too short today.
Yes. And in case you may not know, both Michael and Prince, they were influenced by James Brown. Just like today's artists, including Usher, Justin Timberlake, Chris Brown, Britney Spears, and Christina Aguilera, they were influenced by Michael Jackson with his dance routines. Just like Michael and Prince, they were influenced by James Brown. So there you have it. It's the top 10 R&B black artists of all time. Well, Jackie, thank you so much for being here on the Black Soul Music
Thank you
Experience
for having me.
podcast. It's been a pleasure and it was worth the wait. And it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you
I
so much
appreciate
for
it.
taking the time out. And please come on back, and we would like to hear more of those upcoming projects that you give to us.
One thing that I did notice with my writing that subconsciously, because when I was a toddler listening to all that Motown, I noticed in my writing, I put it together why I do things when I write my melodies and my songs. If you listen to my new song, Never Let You In Again, my friend Anthony that I write with from Virginia, he's the one that worked with Teddy Riley and Missy Elliott, trained him. And he heard me on Spotify and he reached out to me on LinkedIn. He said, I like your tone, and it meant a lot. He found me on there. And I told him, he said I add sass to my music, like some sass, like attitude into it, which I like to use expression like that. But I also listened to Monica in the 90s, like Don't Take It Personal. I always liked how she kind of like put expression into that song. But one thing I realized, and I didn't even realize I did this, like if you listen to the Supremes, this is like one example I've noticed to be able to compare how I do this, but Come See About Me by the Supremes. She's like, I've been lonely for you. They like put the attitude into it in the background. Da 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 da. And what I noticed was if you listen to Never Let You In Again, it's like, I let you in, gave my heart, and you just tore it apart. And I put like attitude in those last two syllables. And I didn't even realize why I do that. I often do that when I write songs. But if you listen to Motown songs or even R. Kelly, like I listened to an R. Kelly song because we were told that we might get a chance to write for Jacquees, with Cash Money, whenever I was working with them last year. So me and the one A&R started listening to like, he's like, name some R&B singers, like we can write like that you think he'll like. And R. Kelly I put on, and he kind of does that similar, like the Supremes. But do you remember the song? What was it? It was huge in the 90s. Thinking of this one. This like dun, 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 and he kind of like puts
Give it a
like
two, do it a little beep beep.
yeah, just like
Fresh
dun,
out
dun,
of Nixon, upon
and
a
just
fresh
kind of
out
like
of
puts like
kitchen.
sass in his singing too. He does like dun 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 dun, and you hear that, and I'm like, that's where I pick all that up subconsciously. Why I'm doing that now when I write melodies, just from that influence as a kid, listening to R. Kelly or listening to all that Motown, because I never understood. I have a few other songs coming out. I have one called Betrayal, which I think kind of resembles an Aaliyah song, but very similar, like Never Let You In, how I do that with, it's always a couple syllables in a song. I don't, just subconsciously I do that when I write melodies. And I'm like, that's where it's from. It's from that influence, from the Motown and from R. Kelly and people like that. And it's amazing how like, as a child, like I picked that up, and now I just automatically, subconsciously write melodies like that. So I definitely think it was their influence. I'm thankful for the music that they influenced me with. Definitely.
Okay. Now, before we go, where can we follow you for any upcoming events, and where can we follow you on social media?
Well, my name on all social media is Jackie Carson, and It's Carson, just like the comedian Johnny Carson. I have Jack, like Jack, like the name Jack M. Cars, and then I have 25. It used to be 12. That was my son's baseball number, but Jack M. Cars.25 or Jackie Carson. And I'm also going to be starting a new community platform under, I'm trying to think what it's under, High Level and, what is the name of that? I'm going to be starting a new community where people can join as members, kind of like people do with Patreon, where you can get like a membership and they'll get access to like footage, new music first, stuff like that I release, like new songs I'm writing. So if there's anyone that likes my style of music, they can join the community and then they'll get a chance, to, I think they're even going to be, the guy that's in charge is planning on even selling music early before it's even released on the platforms or something like that he's planning on doing. So I'm trying to put way more music out this year than I never have put out as much as I hope to put out. I would have put a lot more songs out this year. So I appreciate everybody. Your support. It means a lot to me.
Okay. Download all the artists that we have talked about on this edition of the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. Visit iTunes.com, Spotify.com, or purchase a CD at Amazon.com. Make sure you follow Jackie Carson. Make sure you check her out on our websites pretty soon. But you can also check out her music videos, which is available right now on YouTube. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to check out this episode, please subscribe by going to the link. The link is riverside.fm/studio/Samuel-Wilson Jr.'s. Don't forget to add the S at the end, -studio. And yes, I will be posting this episode on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And if you have a hard time getting on to riverside.fm, then please become a member and subscribe to patreon.com/the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. Log on to Patreon, go to the home page where you see all of the podcast shows, and go to the top and type in the Black Soul Music Experience podcast and check out all of the audio podcast episodes and the video podcast clips that you may have missed. And if you have a hard time getting on to Patreon, then we'll be posting this episode to YouTube. Just go to the YouTube homepage and type in the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. If you like this episode, if you like my podcast, please subscribe, support, give me a thumbs up, please leave a comment, and please pass it on. Thank you for joining me as I close out this edition of the Black Soul Music Experience.
Thank you.
Well, that's about it for this edition of the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. I'm Sam Wilson Jr. Thank you for joining me, and please tune in next week for an all-new episode. The Black Soul Music Experience podcast is sponsored by the support of listeners and viewers like you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe by going to riverside.fm/studio/Samuel-Wilson Jr.'s-studio. And don't forget to check out my audio and video podcast episodes by becoming a member and subscribe to patreon.com/the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. And also check out my video podcast episodes by subscribing to youtube.com/the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. And please leave your comments, feedbacks, and replies by going to my Facebook homepage. Go to facebook.com/the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. And you can also tweet me on X, aka Twitter, at Sam Wilson Jr. 66. As always, parting, remember this: reach for the top and your dreams will come true, and it can happen to you. From all of us, take care, God bless, thanks for tuning in, have a good week, and please be safe.